I do have to give credit to Somali and the Forest Spirit with this week's episode. They pulled a fast one on me. They made me really buy into the comfy atmosphere. I mean, we get off of a pretty bittersweet backstory, which had about half nice and half just kind of soul crushing, but it was great to see how, obviously, the Golem and Somali came to be and how she even came with her name. But the idea of an innkeeper's wife being so nice, teaching how to knit and giving the supplies, I just didn't even think about it. Didn't think that she could possibly betray her because it's a nice motherly character, right? And then we see at the end of the episode, she sells him out, probably for a profit. And it's like, okay, Small and Forest Spirit definitely isn't going out quietly with this first season. It's gonna go out with a bang, and maybe even a more devastating and painful bang. It's like, oh god. I'm both excited and just terrified all in the process. I am glad that they're bringing up characters, recognizing that, hey, this smells like a human, because it's not like humans have been gone from a majority of the public's view for enough of an amount of time that they would forget a scent. I mean, especially because a lot of these creatures have animalistic features and animals can remember a scent for a very long time. But still, I'm glad they're bringing up basically conflict to say, hey, a lot of these creatures eat humans the same way a majority of humans would probably eat them because that's just the nature of the beast. But at the same time, it's like you wish it couldn't happen and just would go out on a nice peaceful note, but you know, that's not how this anime rolls, and that's why we like it, because it's both comfy and fun, but soul-crushing and painful, and that balance is what keeps Somali and the Forest Spirit as exhilarating as it currently is. I mean, I honestly wasn't expecting a full-on backstory. I know a lot of people thought we were getting it, but I mean, after the opening starts playing, I was thinking, okay, they're just going to flesh out the episode 1 first sequence that we get introduced to them, give it a bit more detail, see the wagon, see the people inside. I thought that's what they're going to give, and I was down for that. If they didn't want to show it all right then and there, I was going to be fine with that, but to my surprise, we got half the episode dedicated to it, and holy shit was it amazing. The best way to describe that backstory is bittersweet. It's both sweet, it's both happy, it's both charming, but it's also depressing and just painful to not only see how she started off in chains and just how honestly broken she is. I mean, for a child that young to basically the first creature that she sees calls it dad, whether that be because she never knew her father, maybe her mother just gave her a basic idea of the features and the height and things like that. She saw someone who matched the description and just called it, or maybe it's just because she saw so much horrific things, the first thing that spoke to her, she just blacked it all out and called it father, because that's all she really knew and was able to recognize without completely losing her mind. I mean, we see the wagon. It was not peaceful. We knew she was getting transported for food. That much we all pretty much knew since the beginning, especially when we learned that humans were basically treated as cattle after that Great War. But at the same time, you weren't expecting that much brutality, or at least I know I wasn't. And to see how the Golem kind of transitioned from guardian of the forest to basically parent, I thought they handled it really well, because there definitely could be some criticism before this episode to really say, okay, if the series never explores how the Golem transitioned into being a father, that would be a valid complaint, because as the series keeps telling us, and as any character who meets him will say, I thought golems were supposed to stick to the forest. The only other golem that we've seen that hasn't followed by the traditional rule set is the one that was a part of the village where the witch had to escape from. And even then, it kind of still felt like there was obviously some rule bending, and maybe there was ways for golems to kind of find themselves and find something that they truly love. Maybe they're programmed and designed to be a part of a forest, but if something comes along, maybe that will then click and say, hey, if that's actually what they want to pursue. And it's interesting how they explored the golem's reaction, because I thought they handled it exceptionally well. Like, it wasn't just this switch that he was like, okay, I'm gonna break the chains off, I'm gonna feed her. Like, his entire purpose is the forest. He doesn't do anything to interfere. If a bug's going to get eaten by a frog, he's gonna let it happen. Basically, the forest will control itself, but anything that's an outsider appearing in the forest that doesn't belong there, that's when he's going to get either hostile or try to just push them in the right direction. And I like how he wasn't just like this switch where he's like, oh, crying girl, I'm going to be dad now. No, he's like, why are you calling me father? Where did you come from? What's your name? Who told you to say this? But she's clearly emotionally broken and scarred that all she knows is dad. And it was nice to see how just over countless days, how he slowly but surely came to the conclusion that he needed to leave the forest. It was quite nice too how by the time he decided to leave the forest, he didn't say, you know what, I'm going to be daddy now. He's like, no, I'm just realized that no matter what's going to happen, I'm going to die eventually, and I can't leave you in the forest because that's not what the acceptable outcome is. Obviously, over time, he realized that his true reason was because he wanted to see her smile, which definitely goes to show how much of a person he's actually becoming, which it kind of says to me that golems are almost designed to be machine-like, but if they find their purpose and calling in life by themselves, which maybe only one golem out of 1,000 ever will, whether that's you're mending a village and you're kind of looking after it as their guardian and god, or you become a little girl's father after she's lost everything and was almost sold for cattle. I think that almost it shapes them into being something that feels very human in nature, and it's quite interesting to see just all those simple moments throughout that forest where he would give her food and just how he would just really help her out. And that moment where basically you start seeing his body truly start decaying, where he's basically going into the water to fish. The fact that she was so scared after seeing his arm just being ripped apart, and for him, logically, I mean, that's just, he knew his life wasn't going to last forever, and it's not going to hinder him for the time being, but the fact that she wanted to collect that so he wouldn't fall apart, it was probably the first moment in their relationship that truly said it was more than just someone who was kind of oblivious or someone who was just going to stick to being a guardian forever. And I really liked that moment because not only did she accept the scolding as if she was a bad girl because she did almost drown, it was almost like the golem, for probably the first time in his very lengthy life, was very confused even about himself, as if what she's saying, what she's doing, and how I'm feeling isn't normal because he's never had to deal with something like this. And I thought it was great how they explored it. Not only was it beautiful with pretty much every image that we saw in the first half, it was gorgeous to look at either in a night scene where it was raining or just darkly lit, or it was simply in a bright and vibrant scene. A lot of the times you look back at Somali and you would just feel crushed. A tiny and fragile girl chained up, and the moment where we see him fully break the chains, it kind of felt like it was so hopeful, as if the future was endless with possibilities. And we already knew what would happen. We knew the chains would eventually break, they would leave the forest, but it kind of felt like this was the first time we were ever seeing them, or at least that's how I felt, and the way they directed it I thought was great. To me, for the longest time, I was thinking the best way to wrap up this first season would be with episode 12, show the backstory, and then have them part ways on the road. I thought that would be the perfect way. And when I started seeing it happen in episode 10, I was wondering, is this really the correct place to prop up their backstory? But honestly, I thought it was, especially with how they directed the second half, with basically being bodyguards. They're going to work for a week, and Somali wants to build him a bracelet, or just make him anything that's going to help him feel more connected to her. And then you end the episode with the potential of her being eaten, if not kidnapped, and you know there's going to be a lot of conflict, because I think a lot of us are probably thinking that the final few episodes would be a lot more peaceful. Maybe a few rumbles in the bar. You know, by the time episode 12 concludes, it would be them setting off in a new direction. But now that feels like, how are they going to easily set off? Because, I mean, word on the street is going to say that there's a human nearby. That's not going to stay easy, and it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to deal with it. But I have to say, I mean, the mixture of backstory and just really getting a good understanding of how they transitioned into a parent and child, and how she was very determined to make this golem her dad because she was either just so emotionally scarred to the point of, you know, blacking out all the trauma, or maybe her mother once said, that's what your father looks like, and she would truly believed it. Either way, it's both depressing, but you're glad she came into contact with the golem rather than a bandit or something like that, because imagine if she just walked up to a bandit who was killing a woman saying daddy, and you know it's not going to go over well. So it's very good she ran into that forest, even if it was a hindrance for the golem for the time being. But I mean, the second half and just the idea of babysitting, and we just have these characters, and just there's definitely a lot of sweet moments. But at the same time, when you have that conversation with the golem and basically him revealing how damaged and scarred he is, that was painful. I mean, there's a reason why he keeps himself covered, because I thought it was kind of weird at first because he is a golem, right? Like, golems don't have to wear anything, and in the forest he didn't. But when you see how he fell apart one time in front of Somali, she freaked out. So I think the big reason why he probably wears a cloak is because he wants to keep not only his damage from the public visible so he won't get taken advantage of, but also for her sake so she doesn't worry. Because I think that definitely shows with just the amount of scars and how he's literally asking them, you know, I'm not going to live forever. My time is going to come sooner rather than later, and it's not going to come when I want it. Please look after Somali. And obviously they would. I feel like they definitely would, but at the same time, when he brings up, is that what you really want? Do you really want to just give up after all this time? It's like that moment in that meme of like, don't do it. don't give me hope. Because that conversation said to me, what if there was a way to keep the golem alive for longer periods of time? Because this is a person who is very much about studying things of the unknown and health and things like that. And as we can see, we've already met 2 golems in 10 episodes that have broke all the rules that people have known about golems in terms of finding their own solution. So what if the reason golems only live a set amount of time is because they're basically designed from day one to know what their purpose is, how long they live? What if to them there was never any reason to get medicine or to fix their body because they know another golem's going to take their place? But if you have a purpose, if you have a reason to push forward, not just for the force and not just for your set commands, what if there actually is a way for the golem to actually survive? I mean, it's not impossible. There's a lot we don't know about this world. And to me, that conversation said, we're trying to give you hope. We really are. We're trying to say, you know what, why would he want to leave his daughter in the hands of friends when he could do it himself? It says to me there could be a way to heal him, just enough to maybe give him another 30 years, you know, a normal adult life with his child. I think there definitely is a possibility, and I mean, it's obviously me saying, like, I don't want to see him die, but at the same time, for this entire anime, I've really accepted that he was going to die by the end of the story. But at the same time, with characters within this series who have been studying the unknown saying, is that what you really want? To me, it says there actually is a hope. And that hope, I'll hang on to it for as long as possible. I definitely enjoyed my time with Somali and the Forest Spirit this week, but as always, let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. Favorite moment, whether that be in the backstory or the present day content, whatever you're feeling, do let me know. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you happen new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.